Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. So here's a section of 0.3 millimeter nickel, and here's a section of 0.15 millimeter nickel. This cell right here, these are just dead 18650s that are going to get recycled. This one I have polished with a diamond stone, so this, the bottom of the cell. So it's got a bunch of completely clean metal here and here with a nubbin in the middle of it, so I'll just spot weld around that. And I did that so that I can get the best possible conduction between the bottom of the cell and the nickel. And then this cell over here, it's just scruffy, you know, it's got oxidation on it, things like that. The KWELD has no problem spot welding through grunge. I would say that this does. So first thing I want to show you is, let me turn up pulse 1 to 99. There we go. Pulse 2 is also 99. So this thing is maxed out in every possible way. And I'm going to try to spot weld 0.3 millimeter nickel, because this thing doesn't do a very good job at 0.3 millimeter. So this cell is just simply there for support, and there is freshly clean buffed off metal here and here. So that's where I'm going to do my spot weld. So here's my section of 0.3 millimeter set on top of there, and there are my weld probes. And I have, like I said, pulse 1 and pulse 2 at 99 milliseconds. And now I'm going to try to get around my camera here so I can get on here. So I don't know how that shows up on camera, but I'm trying to maintain a 2 millimeter gap, because that's what I typically do with the KWELD that I have. And that makes great welds, nice and deep, good penetration, strong with 0.3 millimeter. So I've got my weld probes about 3 millimeter or 2 millimeters apart, and I'm going to hit my foot pedal. Okay, you saw the pulse, the metal glowed, so on and so forth. So now I have, you know, some discoloration on the nickel, and that's at 2 millimeters apart. And now I'm going to grab my pliers and pull that off. There's a little bit of strength there, but as you can see, it came right off. Took almost no effort. And the reason why is because, well, it didn't weld. Let's just call it what it is. On the bottom of the cell right here, there are two little dents with a little bit of discoloration in them, but not very much. On the bottom of the nickel, again, there is some very small discoloration, otherwise it's perfectly smooth. And that's with a 2 millimeter gap. So let me flatten this little piece of nickel back out again. And we're going to try it again. So it's shiny over here. So I'll try it over there. And yeah, there we go. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to save the little shiny spot for my final test here. I just want to try pressing down really hard so I get maximum possible contact between the nickel and the cell bottom, and do that at about 2 millimeters. So here I am pressing down really hard, and pulse the pedal. Okay, so there's the weld. Now I'll grab my pliers. See how easy that break? Oh yeah. Took nothing, absolutely nothing. Right, good job. Let me make sure this nickel is flat. Okay, so I've got a spot right here that's never been spot welded. Now I'm going to come over here and do my last test. And basically, basically what that is I'm going to press about as hard as I do on the KWELD, which isn't super hard, not like I just did. And this time, I'm going to bring my weld probes right next to each other. So, I don't know how this shows up on camera, but there is a paper thickness gap between them. Now I'm pressing down pretty hard, you know, firmly, so making good contact. Okay, I got a much brighter spot between the two weld tips. And let's see what I got here. Still broke off. Yeah, I've had it make good welds. So those two little nubbins right there were actually pretty good. Where's that piece of nickel? There it is. So here's another section of 0.3 millimeter. And you can see those two holes right there. And that was right there. So I had the weld probes really close together, pressing down reasonably hard with the spot welder maxed out, and the nickel ripped away. And yet this time it didn't do that. And that's also on polished clean metal. So yeah, I would say 0.3 millimeter you're going to get spotty as hell results. You're probably not going to get good ones that you can rely on. I would say do not use this thing for 0.3 millimeter nickel because you're going to be double checking every single spot weld to see if they're any good. You can't trust them. Alright, so now all I'm going to do is change pulse 1 to 50 milliseconds, because now I'm going to try 0.15 millimeter nickel. Pulse 2 is still set to 99 milliseconds. So here we go, piece of 0.15, and I'm not even going to bother trying 0.3 on the scruffy cell. What's the point? It's not going to spot weld to that anyway. I barely did it on brand shiny new clean metal. So yeah, here's 0.15, and I'm going to do it on the polished spot over here on the cleaned up cell, and it should make a great weld. And again, I'm about 2 millimeters apart. Yeah, I got a good pulse. The metal glowed nicely, and yeah, that's plenty strong. So shiny metal, 0.15 does just fine. So let me peel that off. Yeah, the nickel, as you can see, nickel adhered, and the bottom of, or the nickel itself, come on, focus, it ripped away. So I'll call that good for 0.15. For maybe 0.2, it might be okay as well. 0.3, nah, don't even bother. Not worth your trouble. This thing is simply not powerful enough, and it's not going to make consistent enough results to get a good result. So anyway, more clean nickel. Now I'm going to do it over here on the scruffy one, on a flat spot that's never had a spot weld on it. So come on, camera. There we go. So there's my nickel on there again, and I'm now over here on this cell, which is grungy, and I'm still set at 50 milliseconds. So you saw it on clean cell material and clean nickel at 50 milliseconds, and it made a good weld. The nickel itself, the 0.15 millimeter nickel, tore away from the cell. So again, I'm about 2 millimeters apart, and I'm pressing down reasonably, I don't know, that's like what, 10, 15 pounds of downward force from my hands, and 2 millimeters apart, and I got a nice glow out of it. Pull my probe leads away. Let's see how we did here. Yeah, I would say that's a reasonably good weld. Yep. Yeah, that did great. So again, the nickel adhered to the cell, and I have, you can see there's 2 holes right there. Yeah, the nickel literally ripped away, leaving itself on the cell rather than the nickel just simply pulling away. So for 0.15, I'd say this does fine. For 0.2, it's probably going to be okay. For 0.3, don't waste your time. Not going to be worth the trouble. So anyway, yeah, actual real live on camera, no choreography or anything like that, just doing some spot welds with 0.15 and 0.3 millimeter, and 0.15 does fine, and 0.3 sucks.